Welcome back to ET with GOTB. Well, that was a weekend full of spice and flair, and I am not just talking about Corinthians. Let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. What a weekend of drama. So I should say week, actually, given the FIFA Women's Champions Cup semis were on Wednesday as well. And there was a little bit of an upset there. So there was some excitement and drama and absolute vibes from the Corinthian fans. Now, there may not have been too many surprises across the WSL. That's because Manchester City gobbled up all the drama and decided to just keep it all for themselves and deliver it all in incredible fashion at the Etihad on Sunday afternoon, which we will delve into. We'll delve into that. We'll delve into all of the WSL results, how it impacts the table. We will also have a player of the week, yes, and we will have a standout moment of the week. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. We'll also have a look at the WSL 2 results, how they have impacted the table, and we will look back on the inaugural Champions Cup, which of course Arsenal won Sunday evening, in case you're listening to this on Tuesday. Before we get into that, though, this is your weekly reminder to make sure you're subscribed wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Leave us a review, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And make sure you're following us across all of our socials as well. We are at Girls on the Ball on everything, and Substack. Always got to plug the Substack. Okay, quickly through the results in the WSL this weekend, bearing in mind there were 5 games because Arsenal-Leicester was, of course, postponed due to their involvement in the Champions Cup. Brighton won London City 2, Seika, Minami own goal and Godfrey on the score sheet. Everton 2, Aston Villa 1, Fernandes with a brace and Salmon. Manchester United 3, Liverpool 1, Nolson with a brace, Rolfo and Bergstrom getting on the score sheet. West Ham 1, Tottenham 2, Martinez, Vinberg and Holt with the goals. And Manchester City 5, Chelsea 1, Carolyn with a hat-trick, Shaw, Miedema and Thompson getting on the score sheet there. What a dramatic game that was. Have I said drama enough?
Yes, you have.
I don't know. I think I can squeeze it in a few more times. It does, of course, mean that the table looks like this. Manchester City are on 39 points. They're out in front. And I want to say, with both hands on the trophy, but Sophie keeps reminding me that mad things happen in football. So I'm going to say they have 9 fingers on the trophy. Is that fair?
What, the pinky finger?
Just the pinky finger off, yeah. They are 11 points ahead of their nearest competitor, which is Manchester United, who are now in second place on 28 points. And then Chelsea are in third on 27, Arsenal in fourth on 26, but they have that game in hand. Liverpool remain on the bottom on 7 points, West Ham are on 8, Everton have leapfrogged Leicester. They are up to 9th on 11 points, with the Foxes below on 9, but they do have that game in hand, Leicester, to play, so that is worth bearing in mind. Now, normally, we don't do things in order of excitement or, big game or whatever. We tend to kind of do it in a bit of order, depending on how the games have been played or based on the games we've gone to. I am throwing that out the window this weekend.
We're going straight for the big one.
We're going straight for the big one. We're going for Manchester City 5, Chelsea 1, because this does have the biggest implication on the table, on the league. It was probably the biggest surprise of the season so far, I would argue. And you tweeted something during this game. You said basically Manchester City are playing like champions.
Yeah, they were champions-elect. And I think that's we said it last week, I think, when they beat London City with that late goal. That's a big, there's a lot of changes with this Manchester City team, but I think the mentality change and the freedom that they have, and I think that comes from the manager down to the players. They have the mentality that they're going to be the champions. And I don't think you've seen that with a City team for a very long time. The way that they go about playing their football, the way they're diligent, hardworking, energetic, as well as all of the fancy stuff and the brilliant football players that they are, it's the foundational aspects, I think, that they get so right this season. And then on top of that, you can put on your Bunny Shaws and your Viv Miedema's and your Carolyns of the world and all of the Lauren Hemp's of the world as well, all of that kind of skill and flair that they have, you add that to the foundations of hard work and that kind of ethical side of the game where you're not going to stop running for your teammates. And you really, really buy into the philosophy of football that's being played. And I think that is so clear throughout this season that that's what they're about.
I wrote down confident, ruthless and calm. Even as they lined up for kickoff, there was just like I don't want to say arrogant, but there was a confidence about them that perhaps I hadn't seen ahead of a Chelsea game before. Granted, they have lost to Chelsea twice this season. Out of those 4 or 5 games they played last season, they won one. And it was the one that kind of not meant the least, but had the least impact, if you like. So there was a confidence about it. It was almost like they came in knowing... I'm really struggling here, holy God. It's like they came in knowing that they were going to win it. And, you know, they were at home at the Etihad. And as you say about Andre Eglerts, he seems to set the tone. And he himself seemed very surprised after the game, speechless. But he was so impressed with the way they carried the weight of expectation, because so much had been put on this game. If they won it, arguably, they've got the title. If they lost it, you know... They've got Arsenal next week. Could that massive lead be chipped into? And the way they actually handled that pressure was incredible. And conversely, Chelsea perhaps haven't found themselves in this position for a very, 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 very long time. And we always praise the kind of mentality monster side of things. And that seemed to really be lacking, because City were ruthless in front of goal. They took those 2 early chances, and it was almost like Chelsea couldn't figure out the kind of what the answer was, where to go from there. They looked really lost.
City tend to start pretty quickly, and as I said before, they have so much energy. And we were talking earlier about them hunting in packs, and that's what Andre Eglerts said. He's so keen on that front-footed press, pressing high up the field, winning the ball back high up the field, and basically giving your opponent no time to breathe or no time on the ball. And they've become really, really diligent at that. And I think when, you start with that kind of conviction in your playing standards and in your system and in your belief, and the fact that, they can go wide, but they can also overload the central areas. They can switch things up when they really need to. Viv Miedema is having one of the seasons of, her career for a long time. Bunny Shaw, both of those two have barely been fit in before this season. Together. They played 3 games together in the league last season. This time I think that was 13 starts together.
Something like that, yeah.
So that's when you start to have real relationships building, and you can tell that they've got kind of this telepathic understanding of each other, and it just breeds that confidence. And you go into a game at home in front of an Etihad crowd, in front of the wanted 2.0, and you
are you glad you came, Chelsea? I'm not sure you are.
You put on a performance like that, and I think that is all bred up through their wins throughout the season. They haven't lost in the league since
they lost to Chelsea.
Yeah, the first day of the season. Getting that win, as I said last week, in the manner that they did, getting some wins in the manner that they have done. They've not always been brilliant.
Nope.
But they've ground out results and they found a way, and I think that just breeds the confidence. It gets them into the mood like they were in at the Etihad on Sunday.
What surprised me about Chelsea was how passive they were. And, what last week's game against London City showed was that Manchester City's backline could be got at. And there just seemed to be no drive to kind of win the ball back. Alyssa Thompson seemed to be the only one running around, playing in a 9 as well, God love her, but running around up the top of the pitch, trying to pressure City's backline with zero support from anybody else. They were so deep, their lines were so close that actually City could play through them really quickly, which is just quite surprising. I just couldn't understand why that wasn't addressed quick enough.
Yeah, I think Chelsea is a concoction of things. I think the tactics were wrong. I think they've been wrong for a couple of weeks now. Yes, they switched sort of to 4 at the back, but it didn't really work. And I think because you don't have the right players involved in those positions, I think Villa Bergman is a brilliant young defender. I don't think she's a left back. And so at times it
also
looked
being thrown into this game.
So while they started at a 4 at the back, at times it looked like it was back to the 3 at the back, and those same old problems were reoccurring at points in time. I do think it has to be said for the front line, there are problems there. You have Sam Kerr, who's not Sam Kerr yet. She's obviously coming off the back of that really big injury, and she doesn't look like herself right now. So she's half fit, if you would say that. Aggie Beaver-Jones has clearly got an issue. She kind of dropped out of form as well, but she's clearly not running well.
And picked up another knock in the game.
Picked up another knock in the game, but she's clearly carrying some problems. Then you've got Mira Ramirez, who's not been seen since the beginning of the season. And when you think back to that game and actually the League Cup final win for Chelsea, the player who caused City the most problems was Mira Ramirez in terms of what she brings to a game, in terms of the way that she drives at players and can drive in behind and prove too physical for a lot of defences, and they were clearly missing that. And I was thinking back to that opening game of the season, and while it was a really entertaining game and City had their chances, I think Chelsea, as it had been in the other games, willing to sit off a bit more and kind of meet them a little bit, not like a high press, but a bit lower down and try and pick them off. So allow them to have the ball around the back line and then engage in the press, maybe as they get to the centre line. But it was energetic and it wasn't aggressive and they were hunting them down. That's been absent from Chelsea in the last 2 games in terms of against Arsenal and against City. They've been giving them too much... it feels like they're giving their opponents too much respect in a way.
Is that a personnel issue? Because Chelsea are clearly suffering from injuries. You've named a number of them up front, but also in defence, they're missing Bjorn, Buchanan, of course. Bronze wasn't there. So you have to bear that in mind because that back line wasn't comfortable. Is it a personnel issue that's not maybe driving that press? Like you think about other teams' presses and there's often 1 or 2 players that are so key to triggering it. And it just seemed that when Alyssa Thompson went, no one else seemed to pick up on it.
Yeah, I think it can be everything. I can think it personnel, it can be tactical as well. I think those messages come from the manager, and that's where I will say that Sonia Bompastor has fallen down. I don't think she's adapted well enough in game to circumstances, and especially like with Arsenal and City, who do like to overload central areas as well and can move the ball around really quickly. You know, like Arsenal last week completely outnumbered them. They brought Beth Mead in, they brought Emily Fox in, and City do the same. Caroline can stay out wide, but she can go inside as well. Lauren Hemp does the same with the inversion. So you can really pack those midfield areas, and if you're not on it, before you know it, you're overwhelmed. And
arguably, you know, some might say, not many, because Chelsea fans are obviously extremely cross with Sonia Bompastor right now. But you would say that she reacted to that and played a 4, but the problem was the personnel were wrong and that 4 wasn't effective at all at the back.
So I think it's down to both. It's tactics and personnel and messaging, I think. And I think maybe it's also the fact, and this is a sort of an unusual situation for Chelsea to be in. They've been chasing leagues before, they've done it before, but they've always been in touch enough. They came, after Arsenal last week, they came into this game 9 points adrift. That, like, beyond anyone.
With a big game to play. It's not like they've games
the whole pressure on, but the league was kind of almost done and dusted. So mentally, how do you prepare for that as well? I think that's part of it. And they've been shown up by... I mean, I would also say that I do think, Manchester City, by far and away, the best footballing side in the country at the moment. Arsenal, when they're on it, and I'm not saying, like, I know they have their Upton, this isn't me saying they're brilliant, but I think when they
get it right,
right, and they link the passes again, like, together, they are the second best footballing side in the country at the moment. Now, for them, the problem is not finishing chances, and that's a fairly big problem to have. But I think you're looking at those 2 sides where they tactically are really, really smart in terms of, and really have a clear identity in what they want to do.
The reaction's been quite strong, quite nasty in some corners of social media, which is generally what social media is anyway. I do think some Chelsea fans are maybe looking back with rose-tinted glasses a little bit, as though, you know, everything was perfect before Sonia came. They've never been tactically outdone in a game before. You know, I think back to that, it wasn't the Subway League Cup at the time, it was the Conti Cup final, where they were just completely tactically outdone by Arsenal a number of years ago when it was at the Crystal Palace ground. You know, things weren't brilliant in the final season before Emma Hayes left. You know, they did obviously get that 1 trophy. So there's an element of things not being right. I think Sonia's got things wrong, and it's not finding a consistent way of playing that everyone's confident and bought into, it seems. But equally, there needs to be some recognition that other teams are going to improve tactically and get better players and work things out and work out how to play Chelsea. And that is another element that's not really being considered.
Yeah, that's true. I also think, and I wrote this, and I know some people disagree with me, which is fine, on Twitter earlier, But like, I do think a dynasty team is really, really hard to regenerate and repurpose. And you think back to the other big dynasty of Manchester United.
Oh, I was thinking the USA.
No, not the USA. But that could work too. But I mean, in terms of like having a coach at the helm for so long, Manchester United men, for so long under Alex Ferguson, he was a generational coach in that respect. They had so much success. And you could tell in the couple of seasons before he decided to leave that things were going a bit downhill. They still managed to win the title in his final season, but you could tell he knew it was time to go. And I think Emma Hayes also knew it was time to go for Chelsea, that her run, her 10 years, her decade at the club, like, it takes a lot of effort to sustain that success, but also the entire club has changed from when she, the backside of the club, the management level of the club, their whole way that they approach transfers on both the men's and the women's sides have completely changed compared to when Emma Hayes was at her peak, and she was helped by the club and what they were doing. I think that is a factor. I think you do need to give people time to regenerate a team. I also think that last season kind of put a sticking plaster on the fact that the side, they had another year in them, but they do need to get rid of some players. They need to repurpose the core of the team. They need to have that core playing a lot of matches. It's fine bringing fit, but it's fine bringing in world-class talent, right? Alyssa Thompson, brilliant, but she's 20 and she's been in the league 6 months and she's already shown what she can do. But to get that consistency and to be a core member, like a spine of a team, you need to have players around a lot longer and more used to the style of football in the Barclays WSL. So I would just err on the side of patience and caution in terms of knee-jerk reactions. But I do fully understand how frustrating and upsetting it is when you see your team fall away like they do. I mean, I've been through it on the men's side many times. So,
now, I do want to sing the praises of Carolyn, but I'm conscious that how am I going to step on any toes in any player of the week kind of thing? Do I need to bear in mind a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, well, can I say a little bit? Because, unbelievable game from her. It seemed like every time she went forward, she was going to score or be involved in a goal. Had been injured as well and come back from injury. And what is fascinating is she's already at 6 goals this season. She's only played 7 games. She's assisted 3, and she has a goal, 1.4 goals per 90. That's her current stat, which is ridiculous, which is better than Bunny Shaw's, that seems ridiculous. A goal every 64 minutes is what she has here, and a 30% conversion rate, which I think is the best conversion rate other than Beata Olsen in the top. She has the best conversion rate. So that's an example of a player of when she's on it, she is on it. She nearly had a back heel. She was ridiculous. But I don't want to say too much more. I don't want to.
I don't want to say much more after I said all the stuff.
I don't want to cannibalise too much more. But she did deserve the praise. We couldn't talk about that game and not talk about her. And Bunny Shaw and Viv Miedema. And everyone was on it. Absolutely on it. So that was a very surprising result.
And I think Andre's just changed so much. I think when you talk to the players or when you listen to what they're saying, he gives them a lot of freedom in terms of what they want to do.
Yeah.
And he allows them to express themselves on the football pitch in the way that suits their qualities rather than being fit into a rigid system, which maybe happened before.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about a game. Definitely. A game that we were at, that we went to before the Champions Cup final, which was West Ham against Tottenham. Started out a drizzly day and ended with a deluge. So this is a great way to start. Maybe not the most exciting game. I think, as I said, all the excitement...
I think I jinxed it.
Yeah.
Because I went into it saying this one always delivers, and it didn't really deliver.
No, it didn't.
So,
sorry. Spurs are very passive, particularly in the first half, for a team that were kind of dominating possession and chances. They weren't really... Anytime they got near the box, they just seemed to take their foot off the gas. West Ham scored with their first foray forward. It seemed very much against the run of play. They also had Megan Walsh in goal as well, because Shemek was dealing with concussion, I believe.
So she banged her head the week before, and I think she was still just they were being careful with her.
Yeah. But Tottenham, 28 shots, only 5 of them on target, 46 touches in the opposition box to West Ham's 12, 10 corners. I don't think West Ham had any corners. So in terms of like capitalising, they ended up scoring both goals, I think, from outside the box just about, weren't they? So, you know, they were creating, but it was, you know, if you're a Spurs fan, that was a frustrating watch.
Well, yeah, because they could have been 3-0 down at half-time if it was another team who were more clinical than West Ham, I think. Yeah, they were really frustrating, particularly in the first half. They weren't on it at all, and while they had control of the ball, they weren't really doing anything with it. And rather than like being patient, it was almost like the first 15 minutes was like the 85th minute, and they were 2-1 down. And they were
panicking, yeah.
And they kept shooting from distance, which I guess maybe was to try and test Megan Walsh, who hasn't played an awful lot of football, but they weren't testing her because they were
5 of the shots were on target, yeah.
They were so far off target. And they weren't really being, you know, comfortable with it in the box or trying to do that build-up. And the problem was that their fullbacks were so high that whenever West Ham broke, they went in behind them. Like Shakira Martinez has speed to burn. Saï too, Wunderler as well. You know, they were really getting in behind the Spurs back line and causing problems. And I mean, the goal was brilliant in the way that it came about. You know, a really good transitional move. But they had another one cleared off the line. You know, Saï should have scored that one, I think. And there was another big stop as well. So literally could have been 3-0 down at half-time. They came back. I think it showed their growing maturity as a team, that they came back out and they did dominate play while West Ham faded. They grew into the game. It did take a big error to lead to the brilliant strike from Olivia Holt that won it in the end. But there was an error in the build-up. And I think Rita Guarino will be pretty frustrated with the way that her side dropped off in the second half because she knows they had the chances to win it in that first half.
But that's also what West Ham have kind of, that's their season all over, is being consistent across 90 minutes, and that's what they seem to really struggle to do.
But I think for Spurs and for Martin Ho, that's the kind of game you need to get through. Like we're going to say with maybe London City later, you know, not everything is pretty and easy, and you're going to come up against obstacles at times, and sometimes it's the hard-fought wins that teach you the most, and you find that grit about you that would be different if you were winning things 4-0.
Dr. Zeus, Jesus, very nice.
That's you.
That was lovely. I don't know, that was Sophie, but it was very nice.
Sophie.
Also, you were frustrated with their corners as well. They had 10 corners, and as you pointed out, Walsh in goal tends to struggle a little bit with balls in the air. She doesn't look comfortable, and they just kept going short.
Every time they put her ball in on the keeper, it caused problems because she struggles with her aerial ability. And then they kept going in low or short, and I was like, what are you doing? Just put it on her every single time, because one of them will go in at some point. Like,
it's recognising those moments in games and be able to...
You don't have to change things up all the time. If something's working and causing problems, just keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Everton, they got their first win at Goodison Park at long last. 2-1 over Aston Villa. This was quite an open match in terms of comparing how Everton started their match last week versus this week. They were definitely able to put themselves about a bit more. And yeah, I think I wasn't hugely surprised that Aston Villa went ahead. They're always look so dangerous on a break, on a counter. So that wasn't a huge surprise. But they were a lot more in it than I was expecting, I guess, based on previous...
I think they started a bit slow, and I think that's been a theme of their season, slow starts. But they definitely grew into the game, and they had some pretty good chances despite going in behind, and they just were lacking that finish. And I mean, they were without Tony Payne. Now, I would say that she's probably not the most clinical of finishers, but she adds that pace in behind.
She's an outlet, yeah.
And she's an outlet.
No Kelly Gago, no Catches Noise.
No Catches Noise. So they brought Emma Gabaro back from loan.
Back in on loan, back on the pitch.
Back straight into the pitch.
Quick.
I think she did all right. She maybe didn't get hold of the game in the way that you'd expect maybe in 6 months' time, but she worked hard and she did well. I think so. They are clearly lacking up front a bit in terms of that clinical finishing, but I think they can take a lot of positives, and actually they could take a lot of positives from last week's performance against Brighton. I know it was a loss, but that second half they should have scored and they should have turned the game around. So I think while the results haven't necessarily gone their way, there are glimmers
Positive
of
signs.
hope, I think, in terms of, and to get that first win at Goodison Park, it's kind of been like that thing over their head, right?
Yeah.
And the more it goes on, the longer it goes on, the more it starts to weigh on you, and you're going, oh, well, our home is, tainted or haunted or something.
You don't go have a
Jinxed.
home game and think, oh, I've got an edge here.
Yeah. And so they need to, being at home is one of the biggest weapons you can have.
Yeah.
Once you can start to get the crowd engaged. Last weekend there were boos. If you can start winning and getting on a run of form, and then that turns around as the people become happy again, then it starts becoming a fortress.
You wanted to touch on Momiki as well, who is really showing her quality. We'd had a piece ready to go from her for a while that we'd sat on for a little bit. The timing of it, when we originally got it, was going to go out a bit later, and other things came about. You put it out this week. It seemed like a good week, actually, because she had a very good game. So it is go and have a read of that. It is on Substack.
I just think she's a delightful footballer. Just in terms of what she can create and her ability on the ball, her technical ability. And probably goes under the radar at times, sometimes because she's playing in teams that aren't at the top. But I think she's of the utmost quality. And Everton getting her in the summer was like a steal for them, getting her across from Leicester. And I think, the more that she can be showcased in that team, the more she's going to come to life and show exactly what she's about.
Yeah, and I will say as well, Villa are continuing to be inconsistent, not just from game to game, but from half to half, which is quite frustrating. And I think as well that second goal that they conceded it wasn't quite a carbon copy of the first goal, but it was the same player free on the back post, and she was miles free for this free kick. She came running in on her own with absolutely nobody keeping an eye on her, and that'll be bloody annoying.
Yeah, that'll be frustrating. I think Aston Villa are hurt by injuries as well.
Yeah.
And it's not an excuse because they have good quality on the pitch. But I think when you take Lucia Kendall out of the team and you take Rachel Daly out of the team, you're suddenly those are two players who have been really key to you.
Yeah.
And it was just as Rachel Daly was hitting her form, she was hitting her goals. And then
she was hitting the post.
Well, she was hitting the post. But it was just, she was starting to find the back of the net, and then she gets injured. And I wouldn't underestimate what Lucia Kendall does to that midfield. Missy Kearns is also absent. Yeah. So they are they do have a bit of a problem depth-wise as well.
Brighton, London City. Brighton started this game exceptionally well. I thought they were the better team across the 90 minutes, to be honest. And we're very unlucky not to come out in the first half with more. I thought, London City really struggled with Brighton's width. They were fast. They were unable to kind of deal with the waves of attack. But Jesus, Brighton could not be clinical in front of goal.
No, they couldn't. That's the biggest problem. And I think goals have sort of dried up for them. And that will be because they don't have a centre forward of the quality of Michelle Adjemang at the moment, and they haven't actually replaced her properly yet. Frank Kirby's absent, and I think they're a different side when Frank Kirby is fit as well. So there are a couple of big problems. Obviously, really sad news this week that Rado Vidicic has passed away, and Dario's dad, and also the head of women and girls development at the club. And so it means Dario's away as well, and our thoughts are with him. But I think that probably disrupts things as well within a club, and it will impact the players as well. They will have known Rado well. So I think there are reasons behind why they're maybe not hitting the back of the net or hitting full form.
But they were playing well, is the point I'm making.
They were playing well, and I think they can take positives from that. In terms of London City, Eden Maestro was very frustrated, I think, at the way that they let themselves be dominated in the game. But he was very proud at the grit they showed to dig in and find a way back in. And shout out for Freya Godfrey, because another superb strike. But for a young player to really take up the mantle herself and take on that responsibility. And I was just watching the interview back there, and she was saying how she likes to keep the defenders guessing when she's going to the box, whether she's going out wide or coming aside. And she practices that in training, and
she fools me. So
it seems to be paying off. So
every time I think she's going to cut in, she goes out wide and goes to the smallest angle in the goal. It's ridiculous. But no, I do think it's worth saying. I thought Brighton did play well. It's so interesting watching a game back when you know what the scoreline ends up being, because the commentary is like, God, London City would be pleased if they could even get a point out of this one, And it's hard to believe the way Brighton were playing that they ultimately came away with nothing.
My favourite commentary thing is when after 4 minutes of a game, they've suddenly decided the narrative of the game. It's so funny because obviously, and I'm not criticising, it's because you need to find things to say. but I can't remember who I was listening to. I think it was the United-Liverpool game. And literally 4 minutes had been played, and it had been decided that Liverpool had managed to deal with Manchester United's crossing threat or something.
Already?
And I was like, we're literally 4 minutes in.
It's very impressive. Or when things are said like, they really keep struggling with this particular situation, and you're like, it's been 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened twice.
It's one of my favourite things.
Okay, speaking of Manchester United, Liverpool, this ended 3-1. This was the one you had one eye on when you were at the West Ham game. I was listening to Aston Villa Everton, trying to cover all bases. What were your thoughts on this one? You thought Liverpool were unlucky, but equally they didn't create loads.
So I think first half, Liverpool played really well. They were really compact, as we'd seen the previous week. They defend well. They were getting in wide spaces. They were getting in spaces. They just weren't quite finding the finishing product, I guess. They weren't creating an awful lot, but they were,
particularly in the first half.
But they were also not being broken down by Manchester United. Second half, different story. I think Manchester United came out with more energy in terms of the way they attacked the game. 2 beautiful goals from Lisa Nelson. It will be frustrating for Gareth Taylor that they managed to equalise. Scrappy goal, but they managed to get it over the line. And then literally within a minute or 2 minutes later, they conceded. A couple of minutes later, they conceded. So it's about managing those moments in the game when you're vulnerable and when you know that the opposition are going to come at you, maybe playing a bit more reserved or a bit more mature, is the next step for Liverpool. But I think, well, it was a defeat. They would have probably expected to lose to Manchester United in a way, and they'll take positives from it in terms of what they showed in that performance. These aren't the games that are going to decide their season.
No. What I think is interesting, though, and sometimes a little bit of a theme, is when teams are kind of being really diligent and disciplined with who they're marking in the spaces and who they need to keep an eye on, and where's Turland and where's Park and where's Mallard, and sometimes that happens. You look at Everton and Aston Villa are like, right, we need to try and make sure that the threats are kind of closed down. The goals then come from where you don't expect, sometimes, and they're so focused on a Park or a Mallard or a Turland, and then suddenly Nelson steps up and is like, I'll sort this out.
Mark's going to contend to his bench and bring on Hannah Lundqvist and Fridolina Rolfo.
Leah Schuller.
They combine to get the third goal, and before you know it, it's out of sight. I would say, actually, no, I'm not going to say that.
Are you going to cannibalise something you're going to say later? Right, okay.
I will pause that threat.
Please wait. Please hold.
That threat? It's not, what am I doing?
I don't know, we're both struggling today. We're very
really
tired. Okay, I was going to say that did move Manchester United up to second. That puts the pressure, while Arsenal have a game in hand, the pressure's on them to win that game.
Arsenal's going to get a red army running through the league or something.
Why are they going to do that?
I don't know.
Don't do that.
I didn't really understand.
Don't really know what that means.
The point of it.
Okay, we've come to that moment now. Your player of the week, please.
I'm going to go with Carolyn.
Surprise!
I just think absolutely superb. What she's done for that City team, that didn't actually need any more attacking threats, but now has an additional one. Since she's come back from injury, she's just hit the ground running, and she's enjoying her football. You can tell that the smile on her face, the big celebrations, the big badge tap, and the dancing
bit
as
the
well.
badge, didn't she?
And then the dancing as well with Bunny Shaw. She's having a lot of fun out there, as are all the City attackers, I think, at the moment. But she just brings something extra to the team. She brings, a bit of kind of variation as well in terms of the type of player that you're facing up against. And she's very, very clever and intuitive about what she wants to do with the football, as well as having the technical ability to be able to do that. So, she was having great fun. When the camera panned her on the bench, you could see that she was wrapped up in a blanket, because I imagine it's a lot colder than Brazil over here. But she looked like she was having a nice time.
Yes, and she did then come off to a richly deserved standing ovation as well. Was it Virginia who came on for her?
Yeah.
Hopefully she's okay, because she got
absolutely
wrapped like a pretzel towards the end. She spun around like 360 and didn't look nice. Hopefully she's all right. Okay, what is your standout moment then?
Well, there was a few to choose from.
But you just bit your tongue.
Well, I did, but can I just say, this is not taking anything away from Carolyn's second goal, which was brilliant, or Matilda Lindberg's absolute banger. But I am going to go with Manchester United. I think it was their first goal, and it was the pass from Mallard out to Jess Park in the box, so literally crossfield. Took it down with a touch, and laid it off to Nelson, who lifted it into the back of the net. And it was just like an absolutely sublime piece of play.
Masterpiece.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, WSL 2 results. Here is what happened this weekend. It continues to be exciting. We were at this one. Bristol City 3, Sunderland 0. Durham 2, Portsmouth 1, Sheffield United 1, Charlton 1, Birmingham 5, Nottingham Forest 1, Newcastle 1, Ipswich 1, and Southampton 3, Crystal Palace 1. A few surprises in there, Charlton being held to a draw, Southampton beating Palace, Newcastle being held to a draw by Ipswich, an important point for Ipswich. I really enjoyed our evening at Ashton Gate as well. Bristol City, they did very well that evening, but it means that the table looks like this. Charlton are on 31 points, still with a game in hand. Birmingham City are on 28 points, also with a game in hand, which is quite important because that makes things a little bit tighter up the top. We thought Charlton might be away with it, but they've been pulled back in a little bit. Bristol City are in third on 26, Crystal Palace on 22 in fourth, and just to clarify, Southampton on 21 and Newcastle on 20. So it is very close for that potential playoff spot.
And they've all played the same games but Newcastle. Yes. So Newcastle have an opportunity to rise above Palace if they won that game in hand. But so, it's very tight.
Yes. Down the bottom, Ipswich are on 7 points. Portsmouth are still on 10, and both Sheffield and Durham are on 13 points in 10th and 9th respectively.
But this very much brings Portsmouth back into play.
Yes. Also, Ipswich have a game in hand.
Ipswich have a game in hand, and their goal difference is exactly the same. Like, this is like
that point this weekend.
This is going to be a relegation battle, I think, for the next few weeks to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Okay, we move on to the Champions Cup final, which happened yesterday at the Emirates when all of the rain fell forever. And it was the longest, wettest game I've shot in quite a long time.
When was the last one?
I got pretty wet in Switzerland, but I don't think it went...
Dominican Republic? But you had the overalls.
Yeah, and
you looked like a fisherman.
I did, but it didn't go to extra time.
That's true.
And then in extra time...
Yeah, during COVID.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. I actually gave up on 75 minutes because I had, like, jeans on. Yeah. So, that was pretty horrendous. But this wasn't nice. Makes everything really difficult because things start to fog up. Your hands get wet, and even though you've got stuff on your camera to keep it dry, your hands are wet and you're using the camera like
When Daphne Van Dongslo came on, she had to wring out her gloves because they were so wet. They'd been sitting in the rain.
Oh, well, she came on for about 90 seconds. Hopefully, Borbe's okay. There was a nasty clash. By the way, the game went to extra time. We're going to get into that. But there was a nasty clash, which also, after doing extra time, you then had a long injury period on top of that.
Apparently she's doing okay there.
Yes, which is good. And then we had to deal with a third place team going up on it. It was the longest trophy lift of my life. Okay, let's start with the game.
The game. Really fun game, I think. Although probably...
not if you're an Arsenal fan, I think there was stressful.
No, I think it was fun. I think Arsenal, maybe the same thing that happened this season, came back to bite them again. I mean, they created so much. They created 31 opportunities, had 13 on target. Like, Letitia, the Corinthians goalkeeper, she was unbelievable. She was just getting to everything. She was like, and I was watching her, especially in the first half, going, how on earth are you just like managing to just get your glove to that? And
did you watch her at all when the ball was nowhere near her?
Yeah, she was
bouncing around the place.
Yeah.
She needs no hype person. She hypes herself.
Yeah.
And
that probably leads to the saves.
The stretches she does a lot of movement. Like, she went down in the semi-finals and I was like, mate, that's probably because you were been doing these really aggressive, like, hamstring stretches. Like, calm down, you're going to hurt yourself, do yourself a mischief. But it seems to work because she just seems to get to everything.
Yeah, so I think Corinthians put in a really good show of themselves. They were resilient. They kept fighting. They didn't, I think there is still that gap between Arsenal and Corinthians in terms of, like, the investment into the clubs and stuff like that. But they gave it absolutely everything. They have huge quality on the pitch as well. Arsenal, on another day, would have scored more. But yeah, no, they kept themselves in it and in with a chance. And after Lotte Ruben-Moy's header, it looked all for the world that was going to be the winner of the game. And then we had a 96-minute penalty, which was really, really harsh. I'm going to say this. Like, I think Katie McCabe got the ball. And yes, she connected a bit with the player, but the VAR people called the referee over to the monitor, and as soon as that happens, you kind of know what the outcome's going to be.
But also,
it's
Katie McCabe, so everyone just assumes it's a penalty.
But I honestly think it was, it wasn't a penalty in my book. Steps up, converts it, and then suddenly going to extra time. And I think that first 5 minutes or so of extra time,
they came out,
and
blazing.
Arsenal were just like, oh, this is like literally the last thing we need, because we're in the middle of a season, which in some ways benefits you, but also in other ways, at this time of year, when Arsenal have the number of games that they have,
and they have Chelsea and Man City on either side of this.
City, and then the knockout playoffs in the Champions League. It's very, very close run thing. They don't have the biggest depth in their squad at the moment. Players are injured or coming back from it. So I think it would have been the thing that they least wanted. I
least wanted it.
Kim Little, absolutely brilliant. Like, she was tracking back like she was 23 again. What do they feed her? Like, what does she do?
Haggis.
I need to know her
haggis and iron brew.
Younger as she gets older. Brilliant. But they brought her off at the start of just in a few minutes into extra time, because I think they were like, yeah, we're going to save her legs for the league.
You have to.
It ultimately, while this game meant a lot and it brings a title and it brings a lot of money, in the grand scheme of things, for Arsenal, getting Champions League football next year is the utmost importance compared to anything else.
What I liked about Corinthians is, yes, I understand there is a difference in terms of investment and stuff and where they are, but they played some very good football. They didn't just sit back and park a bus. And they're a team that you cannot put to bed. They seem like the kind of team who are always in it. And I think the timing of the goals, Arsenal scored the 15th minute, they scored in the 21st. To score right at the death, like the timing of how that, I mean, look, I'm not saying that was super intentional, but the way they're always in it, and you can never quite think, okay, yeah, we might be flooding their box and having loads of chances, but if they get one, they're the quality and the shots they were getting off,
the energy that they need, and like they're very like motivated team in that respect, and they work so hard for each other. Like, for a lot of the game, it was like a 5 and a 4 or a 4. Like, they were really well drilled in their two lines of defence, and it made Arsenal coming through the central areas really tight and tricky because there was so many numbers in front of them. So they were really hard to break down as well. And then they have the pace to hit you on the counter.
And they're efficient with little possession. Yeah. So they had 28% possession. They had 15 shots, 6 on target. And I actually thought in the opening kind of 15 minutes of extra time, I was like, do you know what? I think they're going to get a goal, an early goal here.
Arsenal scored like a sublime transitional goal. Like, the way that Mornham has not had the best season herself.
Well, she got player of the tournament.
Oh, yeah. That's another gripe I have. But like the way that she held off, I think it was Duda Sampaio, and sort of shrugged her off, broke through the midfield and found Caitlin Ford. And it's not like Caitlin Ford's been struggling in front of goal. I think that was her first goal in quite a while.
Since September.
But she took it really well. And those kind of moments change seasons for players, and maybe for those two players, that could be like the spark that they need to kick themselves into life.
I think things for the next one that can be scrapped. I don't think you need a player of the tournament or a goalkeeper of the tournament when
for a 2 day
two games have been played. Seems a bit silly. I don't think you need to make the team who wins third stay and hang around and go up on the stage, because what?
You don't need to make them go up one by one to thank all of the harem of FIFA.
I was wet to my skin. I had we all had so much gear on. We were like, why are they coming up?
And they were all cold as well.
And then Arsene Wenger wouldn't give Monum the trophy, and he didn't seem to understand the concept of giving someone a trophy and letting him go on stage and do the pose. It was like no one knew it was going. So yeah, cut that. Don't think you need the player of the tournament. Don't think you need goalkeeper of the tournament.
Definitely don't need Gianni Infantino on the stage.
We don't need him at all. And I just don't think getting third place dragged up onto the bloody stage, God love them as well.
Or do it, get them just up there. If you want to bring them, if you want to celebrate them, which, fair enough. But just...
came third in a tournament of 4.
You just don't need to do the whole process of going through the whole bloody squad to get to the stage point where you're then going to take your photographs. Just get them on the stage and take the photos.
If we're doing that, you may as well get Asfar up as well, because that's just one other team who's there. Fuck it, come on up and have a photo taken.
Yeah, poor Asfar. They're just...
Anyway.
But then also I think the other thing would be maybe think about scheduling more. And I know this is going to be a long debate, but Saturday would have been the perfect time to host finals at the Emirates. Arsenal, if I'm not wrong, were away from home, I think. You could have put it on, because I'm pretty sure FIFA need access to a stadium for like 48 hours or something.
Which I think made it difficult for them to find a stadium in London for this, by the way, just in case.
But on a Saturday, you could have the game a little earlier than 6 o'clock on a Sunday, which, when you're thinking about like
extra time,
kids and stuff, like
trophy
it does
lifts.
make it very, very late, especially, and for travelling fans and all of that, getting transport back on a Sunday, not the easiest thing. So I think you could think about that a bit more and not put it like in tow with one of the biggest games of the season in the league of the place that is hosting the tournament.
When you do your wash up for this tournament, just jot all
but
that
I
down.
do think the positive things we saw for teams get the exposure that they need to get experience against each other that they don't normally get. It was good fun. Like the Corinthian fans brought a lot of atmosphere. As for, yes, they were beaten heavily by Arsenal and comfortably by Gotham, but they never gave up.
Yeah.
And they will learn so much from that experience. Corinthians, we now know, like, it's given me more access to leagues and teams that I didn't have before. So
unfortunately, we can't watch everything.
Yeah, it's physically impossible. But I think there are positives that can be built on in that way. I think it was a fun tournament.
Shout out, we met a journalist who'd flown in from Casablanca for the Asfar game, which, hats off, I love that. And there was someone from Brazil had flown over on Thursday or Friday to do the game on Sunday and left today. I just think absolutely right that commitment.
And I think also it's about remembering it's not just, we see it from a very Arsenal-centric point of view because that was the team.
We're English
journalists.
Football journalists.
And that's what we think about it, and we think about how it's going to impact their season.
Yeah.
But for the Brazilians, the Corinthians, they approached it in a different way where it was like one of the biggest games of their year and stuff. So understanding that as well, I think is important.
100%, but also not dogging everyone who doesn't know absolutely everything about every single team ever, which was on social media.
We didn't even touch Spygate.
We didn't even touch Spygate because it didn't deserve to be touched. They were looking out a window in Starbucks, for Christ's sake. They were children.
Kids.
Any other business? Transfer window closes? Tomorrow.
11 p.m.
Should we expect a flurry of activity?
So that's Tuesday, whenever you're watching us. Deadline day. Always stuff going on.
Go on, keep an eye. Make sure you're keeping an eye. If you're subscribed and following us across our socials, we will try and keep you absolutely up to date with everything that's going on. We did our live on Saturday from the car. I did say we weren't going to do it from the car this week, but I actually think we might have to. We'll see. It depends on time we get back from Leicester. I think we can get back in time and do one seated, which would be nice. Otherwise, we'll be back again next Monday for a wrap-up of the WSL and everything else that's going on. So we'll chat to you then.